Smaller Than Life, an essay by James Baldwin. There was once a slave. The heroic story of Frederick Douglass by Shirley Graham, Julian Messner. In her biography of Frederick Douglass, Shirley Graham has gathered together an absolutely staggering number of details and has approached her subject with an all but a breathless reverence and a high purpose, that of revealing the extent of the heroism of this former slave and his significance during the most crucial part of our history. Since she has won the Julian Messner Award for having written the best book combating intolerance in America, the larger implications of her subject are inescapable. The position of the Negro in American society today. Yet I cannot see that Miss Graham has made any contribution to interracial understanding, for she is so obviously determined to uplift the race that she makes Douglass a quite unbelievable hero and has robbed him of dignity and humanity alike. A serious biography, this performance is very clearly or very nearly ludicrous, and in the battle against intolerance it seems to me that the book's effect will be negligible. Part of the trouble lies in the serious limitations of fictionalized biography. At best, it usually manages to be simply a readable account of a historical figure. Most often, the validity of the characterization suffers in the degree that it is fictional. It is just not possible for a contemporary biographer to know what so-and-so said to his wife at the breakfast table in 1866, or how he felt walking through the woods, or his psychological reactions to heartbreak. The attempt, presumably made in order to bring the reader closer to the subject, actually operates to alienate the reader and to inject an element of unreality, and the false intimacy vulgarizes the subject. Miss Graham begins her story with Douglass at 16 and, wild-eyed with adoration, follows him till he drops some 300 pages later. From the first sentence to the last, his eyes are on a star. The people sharing his vision are sometimes allowed to be confused or misguided, but are intrinsically noble, and all, with the same monotonous flash of insight, are struck with awe when they see him. The people who are against him are all bilious or drunken or devilishly clever, and it is Miss Graham's peculiar ability to create the impression, no matter what the facts, that these people, too, tremble at the mere mention of the name of Frederick Douglass. Miss Graham drags in the forces of history, as many as she can lay her hands on, and as often as the mood strikes her, dumps them on the reader and dashes on to the next Douglass triumph. In her account, even history bends before the force of this man. In Miss Graham's history book, voices, quote, crack like whips, end quote. People fight, quote, like tigers, end quote, are, quote, struck all of a heap, end quote. Hero and saint alike, quote, shake with rage, or bite, quote, trembling lips, end quote. In spite of which time, quote, deals kindly, end quote, with them. And every one of them, even Lincoln, realizes that, quote, few men are like this Douglass, end quote. Douglass comes to painful, spasmodic life only when she allows him to speak for himself, as she mercifully often does, but not often enough. There is a tradition among emancipated whites and progressive Negroes to the effect that no unpleasant truth concerning Negroes is ever to be told, a tradition as crippling and insidious as that other tradition that Negroes are never to be characterized as anything more than amoral, laughing clowns. Frederick Douglass was first of all a man, honest within the limitations of his character and his time, quite frequently misguided, sometimes pompous, gifted but not always a hero, and no saint at all. Miss Graham, in her frenzied efforts to make him A. a symbol of freedom, and B. an example of what the Negro race can produce, has reduced a significant, passionate human being to the obscene level of a Hollywood caricature. Relations between Negroes and whites, like any other province of human experience, demand honesty and insight. They must be based on the assumption that there is one race and that we are all part of it. The Nation, July 19th, 1947.